Happy Tuesday, everybody. It is our math day, and so we're going to go ahead and get into it. This week, we're going to be learning about number awareness. And so what number awareness is, it's just the knowledge that there are things called numbers and that they correspond to values of something or quantities of something, right? So as you know, this is a hundreds chart. It literally lists all the numbers from 1 to 100. There are definitely a lot more numbers than 1 to 100, but we're going to be focusing on these ones for right now just to kind of ease us into our math unit, okay? So when I'm counting, there's two different types of counting that I might do. There's something called rote counting, and then there's something called skip counting. And so rote counting is just counting numbers one by one in order. So if I'm rote counting and I'm using this hundreds chart, I'm literally going to go through the whole sequence from 1 all the way to 100, okay? So I'll do a quick example and I'll do the top row, okay? So I'm rote counting, I'm starting at 1. So I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's rote counting. If I were to continue, I'd move on to 11 and I'd go through this row, then this row until I finally arrived at the very bottom and got to 100. So rote counting, as you might have noticed, it can get a little bit monotonous, it can get a little bit boring, okay? There aren't going to be a lot of times where you really need to rote count to high amounts like that, unless you are like doing one-to-one correspondence and you're counting to make sure that you have enough of an item, okay? So let's say you go to the grocery store and you bought 50, I don't know, Gatorade bottles, and you wanted to count to make sure you had 50 Gatorade bottles, then you would rote count them one by one to make sure that you got the correct amount and that you didn't get gypped by someone, right? There's also something called skip counting. So skip counting is when I count, or counting by a set pattern that excludes some numbers. Now realize that sounds fancier than what it really is, okay? So if I'm counting by a set pattern, let's say I'm counting by 5s, because this week we're going to be focusing on skip counting by 5s and 10s. Then I'm only going to count values, quantities of 5, okay? And so I'm going to start with 5, and then I keep moving up by 5, okay? That's my pattern, is 5. So I know that I go, oh, there's 5, and then I could count in my head, 1, 2, 3, 4, oh, another 5 makes 10, 10 plus 5 is 15, 15 and another 5 is 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, 95, 100. So that was my pattern, okay? I had 5 and I only counted quantities of 5. I skipped over the other numbers, okay? So that's my pattern. If you're skip counting by 10s, it's actually a lot easier. You're going to be counting groups of 10 exclusively. And so if you're looking at a hundreds chart, it's actually really nice because you basically go down the 10s column right here. So if I'm skip counting by 10s, I'm going to go 10 plus another 10 is 20. Add another 10, 30, then 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Pretty easy, right? So when am I going to use this? When am I going to be skip counting? Well, let's say that you bought those 50 Gatorades, right? And you could rote count them one by one, or you could do groups of 5, all right? That way you don't lose count, because what if as you're counting, you lose track and you're like, oh darn, I gotta go all the way back to the beginning and count all those Gatorades. What a bummer. Or you could group them, okay? So if I skip count by 5s, I'm gonna create groups of 5, and then I know, all right, that one, that's 5 Gatorades. This second group, that's 10 Gatorades. A third group of 5 would make 15, then 20, and then you count till you got to 50 to make sure that you had those 50 Gatorades. Even easier, you could do skip counting groups of 10. Okay, so you group 10 Gatorades together, cool, that's 10 Gatorades. The next group would make 20 Gatorades, then 30, then 40, then 50. You'd have 5 groups of 10, and that's way easier than going back and counting one by one by one, because it's really easy to lose track. I have done this personally, and I'm sure you guys have too, and it's not a fun time. So this is what we're going to be focusing on for today's lesson. I know that was a pretty quick overview, however, we're going to be practicing a lot during our Zoom meeting, and then you guys also have some cool boom card activities that will help you further develop this skill of either rote counting one by one in order, by sequence, or skip counting, counting by pattern that excludes some numbers, okay? I hope to see you guys during our Zoom meeting, and have a great Tuesday. Thank you.